comfort zone, 'cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. It's a final, you got me in tonight. 'Cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around, no, I won't be turning around. 'Cause the right time, you feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around. Don't forget it, don't forget it, don't forget it. We'll turn this around.
Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to some Azerbaijan Grand Prix race reaction. Sorry I'm a little bit late. A few technical issues on this side. Hopefully all coming through okay. But Jesus Christ, what a race. Oh my God, I'm exhausted. Absolutely unbelievable. I'd written probably about 3 or 4 pages of notes about the race up until the last handful of laps, and then I basically throw them out the window because I think we know what's going to dominate the conversation tonight. Absolutely unbelievable. I think we've bounced back from the, should we say, disappointment that was Monaco. What I will say, though, is that before all the chaos at the end, it was actually quite an enjoyable race, a really enjoyable race. It was tense at the front and lots of strategy intrigue and all of that business that we usually say, but, oh, what a weekend. Unreal. Shall we have a look at the race results? If you haven't watched the race, by the way, go and watch it. Unbelievable. Sergio Perez took his first win for Red Bull Racing, the second of his career, of course. Which is fantastic. Sorry, just checking something in chat there. Sebastian Vettel, second place. Seb on the podium. God, he needed that. Pierre Gasly, brilliant third. He's just always up there these days. Charles Leclerc in fourth place. Lando Norris in fifth. Fernando Alonso, sixth place. Feels like a day where some of those who have been struggling in their cars kind of really got a result they maybe needed for some confidence. Yuki Tsunoda, 7th place. There you go again. Carlos Sainz, 8th. Daniel Ricciardo up in 9th place. And then Kimi Raikkonen took the final point for Alfa Romeo. Giovinazzi was 11th. Bottas was 12th. Miserable weekend for Valtteri. Probably jinxed him on Thursday. Schumacher 13th. Mazepin 14th. Lewis Hamilton down in 15th place. Nicholas Latifi 16th. Russell, Verstappen, Stroll and Ocon all retired. And just for anybody wondering, Max Verstappen, he did set the fastest lap, but he doesn't get a point because, of course, he didn't finish inside the top 10. In order to get that point for fastest lap, you've got to finish top 10. So, yeah, unbelievable. Well, I just don't know where to start. I'll tell you where I'll start by saying something that I've not said for very long on these, for quite a while on these streams. Good evening, Jonty, mate. Did you enjoy that one?
Good evening, Sean, and everyone. I did enjoy that. That was really good, even before the chaos, which is rare.
Yeah, I was just saying at the start there that, you know, I'd written so many pages of stuff to talk about, so even had that not happened, we would have still had plenty to discuss tonight. But usually we'd start at the top and work our way down, you know, Perez, Vettel, Gasly, etc. We kind of can't tonight, can we? We've got to start with that incident for Max Verstappen. Well, really, with Lance Stroll, we've got to start weirdly. If you didn't catch the race, I'm sure a lot of you did, that's why you're here, but Lance Stroll, massive blowout on the straight, tyre failure by the looks of it from Pirelli. That was a big accident as well, by the way, on the long straight. He was very shook up by that, completely understandably. Pirelli apparently had been saying, or the initial thought process was that things were okay. There was nothing for the leaders to worry about. And then I don't know about you, Jonty, I was quite skeptical of that. I was thinking maybe the leaders might fancy a safety stop here, because that, after an incident like that, if Pirelli don't know what's caused it, which they wouldn't do, understandably for Pirelli, I think I'd have fancied bringing in one of my drivers and just, do you know what I mean? Just it's difficult, isn't it? Because the field was quite close at that point.
It's always going to be difficult for the teams in that situation. You know what they're like. They will try to eke it out as far as possible. They will always be... It's always that risk-reward balancing act, and the teams will always push it to the absolute limit and beyond. But this, it's not entirely on Pirelli. I was very, very harsh on them straight away, but I don't think it's entirely their fault. Because we've got the FIA pushing, saying we want a different construction this time round, and they're having to do it, but they don't get fully tested. And today we see the results.
Yeah, it's interesting because they've gone a step softer for this weekend, or the weekend we've just had, obviously. But as I put on Twitter, this year's C3, which is the hard tyre, was the medium last year, and they didn't run the C2, which was a hard tyre last year. So Pirelli, obviously, if you look at tyre form, I know they're different construction and things. If you look at tyre form or history or whatever, it sort of made sense to come a step softer this weekend for me, because if you've not used the hards at all in the race, then they're obviously too hard and the teams aren't going to get anything from them. So I was not surprised to see them go a step softer, but obviously that tyre blowout for Stroll, massive concern. And then Max Verstappen, just as I put my PC on, actually to start setting the stream up, so it's probably my fault, blowout on a straight into the wall, another nasty accident. And it looked at that point, I've got to say, Jonty, like a massive turning point in the championship. As it turned out, not so much of a worry in the end.
Well, no, yeah, that didn't really go well for Lewis. And while we were sat here watching the restart, just seeing the piles of smoke coming out of Lewis's brakes, I even said, Lewis is going straight on, he's not going to make this. It was pretty clear. Because once they get too hot, they just get really snaggy. You know, you can't brake properly, they just instantly lock up. There was nothing he could do with that. There is talk of he had a setting wrong, the magic brake system, according to the stickers that are inside the car. But even so, either way, they were never going to work properly. So we have looked out there. The championship stays the same. So that's a result. And people behind them catch up a bit. You know, Perez isn't totally out of it yet. Much.
I am just going to say, though, we'll talk about Bottas properly later, but I've got to say, one man who's probably very happy this evening is Valtteri Bottas, because somehow he's dropped lower in the championship, but he's not lost any ground on the leaders. So he's probably a little bit relieved about that one. But yeah, I mean, absolute chaos towards the end. Got a red flag because of the Max Verstappen thing. It turns out that Red Bull have been over to Michael Massey on the FIA radio. Incredible innovation, by the way, from Formula One to get that on the broadcast. I'm loving that, to hear Michael Massey and kind of how firm he is with the teams actually at times. But sort of saying, look, maybe you want to consider pulling a red flag, because we had no warning of that. There were no signs of Max's tyre exploding. Maybe you need to pull us into pits for red flags so that we can all change and nobody loses anything. And I think that was the right call. I think that was, because otherwise you risk a Silverstone situation from a few years ago where you restart the race and then another tyre blows up, and it especially Baku at the end of that long straight, that could be, I mean, Stroll's crash was big, Verstappen's crash was a big nasty one as well, but that could get very, very, I mean, Stroll, his car sort of climbed the wall a little bit, didn't he? He's quite lucky not to end up in the fencing and all sorts. So I think right decision to red flag the race, but big question marks over Pirelli again, and whether... I agree with you. They're in a really tough position, Pirelli, because we as fans are always saying, no, go a step softer, and the FIA is saying go softer, and then they do, and things like this happen. So they're kind of behind between a rock and hard place, aren't they, Pirelli? But I mean, they'll be using the harder tyres next year. I'm pretty confident of that one for this race if it's on the calendar next year, which I assume it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say other than safety has to come first in those situations, really, doesn't it? They're going to have to think harder tyres next time. I know different tyres completely next year, and they'll probably err on the side of caution anyway for the first season.
Yeah, we see. This is it. I mean, it was the same compound between the hard and the medium from last time out, but it's a different tyre construction. These are stiffer and they're heavier, because the same compound in 2019 did 44 laps without a problem and maintaining decent pace, and yet we had Max's blowing up after 30. So it's definitely something it's definitely a change in the construction, making them heavier. You've got to think the centrifugal force of those wheels going round and round for that long, it never ever gets tested. And it's the fact that it's on and off, because the rest of the track is relatively slow. It's similar to work hardening of a metal. You've done the bending the spoon trick. You just keep trying to bend a spoon, it'll snap as it just gets too hard. That's what's happened I'm sure that's what's happened in the shoulder, where the sidewall meets the tread, and it's just gone there, adding off.
Quite a few early super chats, actually. I'll read these out because some are relevant. Thank you to Felix. Said, first, I like Hamilton, but thank God he didn't capitalise on today. Championship would have been over. He is just too good. Also, we'll check over the first Red Bull number 2. We'll check over, the best Red Bull number 2. He killed it today. He's hitting his stride. Also, let's go, Seb. Thank you to Andrew as well. Said Hamilton behind Mazepin, never in my wildest dreams did I think that would happen. Rixis as well. Thank you very much. This podium of Red Bulls. Very true. Yes, ex-Red Bull drivers and current Red Bull drivers and all sorts going on there. Thank you to JV as well. Said the teams had a warning. Don't forget, Pirelli did tell teams to up tyre pressures earlier in the weekend. That is very true and an excellent point. And Felix again, thank you very much. Said radio to race control is one of the simplest yet best innovations so far. Yeah, tyre pressures did alter this weekend, didn't they, as well? So maybe Pirelli had seen something they were a little bit concerned about, but I suppose to go back to that point about not having a warning, I suppose they did in the sense that Lance Stroll had already crashed. So I'm not saying Red Bull should have instantly pulled him in the pits because Stroll crashed, because you can't go doing that. But yeah, really bizarre. I don't really know what to say on it other than it just absolutely, as you can tell, I've not got over it, absolutely blew the race, quite literally, wide open. And that gave us a second restart, a standing start. Do you agree with the standing start, Jonty? I think that's, from a fan perspective, it's brilliant, because we get one of the most exciting parts of a weekend again. And I sometimes feel like, from a Perez perspective, or a pole sitter's perspective, if you get a standing start in a place like Baku, you've not got to deal with that massive slipstream after a safety car restart.
Yeah, true, but also he's got the chance to get the jump on him.
Yeah.
I think the standing restart was definitely riskier for Perez, because he can't get that jump on people, and he's got to absolutely nail it around the whole lap to hope that no one's close enough to get the full slipstream down the straight. but then it's 2 laps. So if someone does do that, he's then in prime position to use it afterwards. It is this in some ways the safer decision, because we've seen a few times here that safety car restarts can be messy. So it's one of them 50-50 balancing acts. I preferred the standing start, to be honest, just because they'd all changed tyres, they were all even, and it gave us a sneaky look at what a sprint race might be like.
A sneaky look. I like a sneaky look at things. Yeah, I mean, that's... We'll talk about Hamilton then as well, because the tyres, his brakes, were smoking like crazy on the grid, like you say, Jonty. They were... I was waiting for these flames to start licking up the side of them. He's obviously got the brakes to overheating. He's got this magic button on his car as well, apparently. He goes down into turn 1, gets the better start than Perez. Perez does not get a good restart, side by side, and then apparently as Perez sort of comes to squeeze, Hamilton accidentally flicks the switch on the steering wheel or wherever it is that puts this magic mode back in, locks up and straight on in turn 1. And I'm not even joking. I just stood here and went, oh my God! I could not believe it. The twists and turns we've seen in this championship already, and it's only race 6, and then the twists and turns in this race as well. This is going all the way. This is going all the way, mate. It's got to, surely. All the way to Abu Dhabi. Give us something to get excited about for that bloody finale.
Well, yeah, we can hope. It certainly looks that way now. This was race 5. I've already forgotten. We're only just starting the season. This was race 6?
Yeah, number 6.
Oh, important for the predictions. Yeah, so... Yeah. They're still within a race win of each other. So within a second place of each other. So, ooh. What do you think? Is it going to Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, what do you reckon, chat? Yes or no? Will this go to Abu Dhabi? It's got to go further than it has in recent years, where it's been wrapped up with sort of 4 or 5 races to go. Surely, it just feels like it. That's what it feels like. I still suspect that come the end of the year, I think the Mercedes is going to work better on more tracks than the Red Bull will in terms of like dominating the other team, if you like. But I do feel like, sorry, mods, I've just absolutely broken the chat. But I do feel like this one, again, as a gut feeling, is going to go all the way because, like today, Max Verstappen crashes out. Well, in other seasons, Hamilton gets the win, takes the lead, and starts to disappear. Whereas this year, he also makes a mistake because they're both under massive pressure. Don't forget, that's a big moment for Hamilton. He said on the start line, look, we've got to think about the championship. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We don't need to go too aggressive. And then 5 minutes later, he's in the runoff at turn 1. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I've got no logic to it other than it just feels like this could go very close to the wire, if not completely to the wire. But big mistake. And to be fair, Hamilton seems to be sort of holding hands up and saying, driver error. Toto Wolff was reluctant to say that. After, I would say, didn't really want to go into whose fault it was, but he's just caught a switch on the steering wheel. These things happen. It's all about Pirelli, though, today, so I'm just... we'll talk a bit more about this. I'll take some of your questions as well around tyres and things like that. I wanted to do that first because I know people who watch this later, if we'd have got to punctures, we wouldn't have talked about Verstappen until about an hour and 10 minutes into the stream, so I wanted to get it out of the way nice and early, but we'll compose ourselves through the rest of the stream and we'll talk a bit more about it later. There will be timestamps in the description as well for anybody watching later who wants to skip to that, but a bit of thinking time. Anything else you want to add before that I've forgotten on Verstappen and Hamilton in the race, Jonty?
Sorry, what? What about
is there anything you want to add about Hamilton and Verstappen?
No, they were both on it. I mean, Hamilton, again, doing his usual trick of thinking that they're not quite on the pace and then being super fast. Although I really can't work out this today, whether Hamilton's way above the capabilities of the car or Bottas is way below the capabilities of the car. Or it's slap in the middle and it's just like a fair judge of the difference between the drivers. I really can't tell. It's hard on this one. Because Mercedes definitely looked rattled. I mean, yesterday when they came out and said that there was a different rear wing setup between FP3 and qualifying. I mean, that's really being unsure of what's going on with the car. You don't see that from Mercedes very often at all.
No, one thing I would add as well is that prior to the incident, Red Bull were looking on for their first 1-2. I think Christian Horner's their first 1-2 since 2016. Would that mean that their last 1-2 was Ricciardo and Kvyat? No, it would have been Verstappen and Ricciardo, wouldn't it? Or Ricciardo and Verstappen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. 20, that surprised me. I know that we've had Mercedes domination, but you'd have thought with Ricciardo and Verstappen in there as teammates until 2019 that there'd been more than 1-1-2 since then. I was quite surprised by that. But also, super quickly, all drivers, Stroll, Verstappen, both out of the cars. Stroll very rattled, but both out of the cars, both absolutely fine. That is the most important thing. Let's talk about Sergio Perez. And I think we'll all agree. I'm looking at chat, but I think his best weekend in a Red Bull by a mile. Not just because he won, but he looked great all weekend. Looked pacey. Obviously caught out by the red flags in qualifying, which meant he started down he qualified 7th and started 6th, I believe. So started a lot further down than he'd like to, but he was really quick. Big moves early doors. Dispatched Leclerc quickly and got past Gasly as well. They were huge moves to the race because they set up all the strategical elements that we keep saying Perez needs to be there for, or the second Red Bull driver needs to be there for. Superb drive, great stuff around the pit stops as well. Was quick on his in lap, was quick on his out lap. Did apparently overshoot his markers in the pits according to Christian Horner, which is why he had a slower stop on the left rear. Otherwise, could have jumped Verstappen, which would have been interesting to see what Red Bull decided to do at that point. I would imagine it might involve swapping them, although Christian Horner said no, but we'll never know, will we? Just a great weekend for Checo, and so pleased. I mean, the podium itself, anyway, Jonty, was just the happiest, smiliest podium I think we've seen since probably Sakir for me. So yeah, just so delighted for Checo to get that win, because this is now he can. They said it in commentary, like something's clicked, hasn't it? Checo's got, and it's a good track for him, but something's clicked for him in that car, and that is great to see.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he was on it all weekend. I mean, all through Q1 and Q2, he was right up there, really, really quick. Did get caught out by the red flags, but, you know, at least Ferrari learned and they made the other car crash.
Tinfoil hats on already.
I loved winding people up with that one. I tried it again today, saying that, yeah, Checo's stop just happened to be slower than Max's, completely by accident, which, knowing what they're like, you wouldn't be surprised if they did that just so they don't have to be seen to be making the call. Because they would this early, because, well, they're desperate for a title. But no, he was absolutely outstanding. All the way, even his actual fighting wheel to wheel in the first half of the race. He was taking it to people and keeping it super clean. And he's not had the best track record of that around Baku, let's be honest.
No, he's had his moments, hasn't he, in Baku, squeezing teammates and that. But, you know, I know he's an experienced driver, but even soaking up that pressure from Lewis Hamilton, I mean, he was on his rear wing. But maybe it's just me. I think that pace from Perez to keep Hamilton behind, I think that was all strategical. I'm absolutely adamant it was, because if you watch the timing screens, he'd get 1.2, 1.3 seconds clear at the start of the long run to the line. Then all of a sudden Hamilton closes in, but he can't get close enough for DRS and can't get close enough for the slipstream to be effective into turn one. Then that gap comes down to about 7 or 8 tenths. Then Checo builds that again through the lap, and then that comes down. I think that was all strategical. Keep Hamilton behind him. That potentially damages tyres or causes tyres to overheat or causes a car to overheat. That helps Red Bull ultimately. That I genuinely do. And maybe that will come out in a few weeks, and maybe it's just me. But do you think that was real, or do you think Hamilton was just relentless with his pace to stay on the back of him?
I would probably say it's both. It's definitely the kind of strategy game that Red Bull want a driver like Checo for. And it's what they've been lacking all these years with Gasly and Albon. But also, you can't do it completely as planned against Hamilton, because he will pull time out where you don't expect it, whilst making the tyres last as well. I mean, he's probably second only to Checo himself for actually doing that. Apart from Vettel today. My God, what a job. Yeah. But that's going to be a big, big thing in the Constructors' Championship. If he can keep this pace up, like you say, Mercedes, they are really, really in danger of losing it, and by quite a lot.
I don't. Maybe it was just that Checo was better in that middle sector, or the Red Bull was. I don't know, but maybe there is a bit of both. And like I say, you can't really plan it because some drivers would sit back and just take that, whereas Hamilton could just do anything, couldn't he? He could suddenly get a great final sector, a fantastic exit, and he's on your back of the car and you're in trouble. But I think a superb drive from Checo, doing what the second Red Bull driver needs to do, and then when the first Red Bull driver crashes out, he wins the race. That's exactly what they need. That's what we've been saying on this channel and what they've been saying at Red Bull and on Sky and on every outlet everywhere. That's exactly what Red Bull have needed for the last 2 years and not had. So I really hope he kicks on for here. And my only concern is this is a track that Checo tends to go well at. He's had a couple of podiums before in that midfield Force India, done a great job. I am a little bit concerned that we'll go to France and maybe he'll struggle if the car's not quite where it needs to be for that track, because this is very much a Red Bull track, but I hope it isn't. I really want him to get to Paul Ricard, deliver again, stay with Max all weekend. Austria should suit them quite well as well. I think that's I'm feeling good. Also feeling good today, probably Sebastian Vettel. If you'd have told me at the podium with Perez, Vettel and Gasly, I would have told you you're talking nonsense anyway. But Seb Vettel, I'd never thought for a second we'd have seen him on the podium today. And he's a driver who's had a rotten year and a half, and he's had a difficult start at Aston. But really, we could talk about kick-starting seasons for Seb, but for me, his season kick-started in Monaco. I think he was superb all weekend. And he's delivered today, and he was a threat. I know they were managing tyres at front and managing the pace as well at the front, but he was a threat all afternoon to the top 5, and he's got himself a podium. That's where you need to be. He's doing the. I was trying to think. I was thinking about that. He's doing what we said about Perez a lot. Do you know what I mean? He's there to pick up the piece when it all goes wrong. So really chuffed for him. And also apparently the best result for Aston Martin as a constructor in F1 history is second place, which is something I wasn't expecting today. Nice and racy is what I've got written down for Seb. Some great tyre management as you would expect as well. Good strategy from Aston. A good strategy the last couple of races, haven't they, Jonty?
Yeah, they have. That's one of the reasons why I was so gutted about Stroll's tyre blowing up, because that strategy, the problems in qualifying, going out, he was set perfectly to just gamble, start on the hards, and he was looking perfect. If those tyres had actually done the 40 laps, he was laughing because he was about to come in and put on a brand new set of softs. Whilst everyone else is eking their hards out to the end, he would have been 3-4 seconds a lap faster than anyone. And it's a shame we didn't get to see it. Ooh, don't hit the microphone.
Do it all the time, it's fine.
Yeah. And Vettel, his strategy as well, absolutely brilliant. How he made those softs go that long, I do not know. And to also keep pace at the same time. Just before his stops, they were saying that he was only sort of a couple of tenths off at the leader pace. Amazing stuff. He earned that win today. He earned that podium today. It didn't just fall into his lap. There was some luck, but he really had to work for it. Absolutely brilliant. And it's good to see him smiling again. This is everything we want to see of Vettel, and nothing of what we saw of Vettel at Ferrari.
I think it's probably a more comfortable environment than the last year has been, or the last year was at Ferrari. So he's probably just very happy in general to be out of that. But yeah, you say there, great strategy. Overcut on Tsunoda to get himself up into P7 when he pitted. Really solid drive. Like I say, a threat all afternoon. I don't know. Well, I say I don't know. I do know. If Verstappen had absolutely floored it and Perez had followed and Hamilton had followed, he'd probably be nowhere near the top 3 on raw pace. But fantastic from him. And also all weekend, Pierre Gasly. I mean, that kid. Sorry to sound condescending by calling him a kid. I'm 35. I can do it. All right, it's allowed. But I mean, it's almost a cliche now for me to say it, but you look at where he was when he was dropped by Red Bull. He's hopped in that car. He picked up a podium in Brazil. He went on and won a race in Monza. He's on the podium again today. He has come so far, and he just seems to be getting better. And he's a driver that does not get mentioned enough when it comes to driver transfers. Too many people talking about your Russells and your Norrises. Give him some credit. He's doing a great job in the Alpha Tauri. He's very happy as well. Really good drive. Kind of kept himself out of trouble. But for me, the standout moments was that battle right at the end with Charles Leclerc. I mean, I was just waiting for them two to end up in the wall, quite frankly, Jonty.
Yeah.
Harsh, I know.
The restart, how Leclerc did... Was it Oh no, after the first safety car, I think it was. Leclerc, how he didn't end up going up the back of Vettel. That was far too close. But, yeah, you just reminded me of that, sorry. No, Gasly's been fantastic. I've even seen people talking on Twitter saying, why is everyone on about Russell? He's out. Gasly's out of contract for 2022 as well. Maybe he could get the Merc seat.
Let's not start that. I knew you'd come out with something like that.
It's June. Plenty early enough to be starting silly season talk.
I mean,
no, the thing that got me today was with Gasly and Tsunoda, to be fair, is the way it was like the AlphaTauris or Toro Rossos of old, where they've come to a track that's all straight line speed and they're excelling. That's what they used to do. That was one of their trademarks, and it was fantastic. And it's good to see that again. And hopefully they can keep that going this year. Monza, Spa.
Yeah. No, you've set me off on transfer talk, you fool. That's all my brain's doing now. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to stop. I think I'm annoying people. Sorry, if I'm popping, by the way, let me know, because my mic's in a new position today. I just saw Annette say poppy, Sean, so I don't know if I am a bit, plosive on the old mic. Just let me know if I am, and I will move it away a little bit. But yeah, just coming back to the race, I mean, I just think, yes, he's looked into that in the sense that there were incidents ahead to get him on that podium, but the truth is, his pace in qualifying was superb. Was he fourth? Started fourth, didn't he? Yeah. So fourth place, absolutely great lap in quali. Yes, of course, red flags and blah 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 blah. But he still got his lap in when others didn't. At the end of the day, yeah. And I think drove not quite. I suppose he was actually. No, I'm gonna correct me if I'm wrong, Jonty, but I'd say he was probably just as much of a threat to the podium places as Vettel was at points in that race, if not for all of it. He was always sort of there in the background, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. He was just there waiting to pick up the pieces if there was, a really long stop. And we saw him actually get the better of. He did get in front of Hamilton, did he not? At the round of pit stops.
Yeah, did he?
No,
notes are in the wrong order. he jumped Leclerc. My notes are in the wrong order because, of course, obviously, I've got people written down, and sort of Vettel was down the order when I wrote my notes, and so was Gasly. So I've not got them all in the right place. So I have no idea. I'm not even going to refer to the notes. There's no point. It's been one of those races. Yeah. Again, great strategy calls. I'm just so chuffed at that podium. That's nothing against. I don't want to see, massive tyre blowouts that put Verstappen in the wall and Hamilton making those mistakes. Of course I don't. We want a great championship fight, but just every now and again, a bad race, not an accident, but a bad race for a Verstappen and a Hamilton, or a retirement with a mechanical failure or whatever, just so we get days like this, so that these midfield drivers, people like Perez, get an opportunity to win. But yeah, I'm really happy with that podium, as I think a lot of people are, just really happy with that race in general. And I don't know what to say anymore about Gasly, other than I think he's been brilliant in the last 18 months, and he was brilliant again this afternoon, and so was Sebastian Vettel, and so was Sergio Perez. So, we always talk about luck and how that plays its part in Formula One. That is just what Formula One is, and every sport, there's an element of luck involved. But all of those, whilst they've looked into the positions they've got in many ways, they were all there throughout the race. If you had a camera shot of Max Verstappen at the end of the straight, they were all pretty close behind him. They were never a million miles away. So that's what's made this race that little bit more exciting for me, Jonty, is the fact that one mistake and somebody's going to get a great result. And as it happened, two big mistakes, or a blowout and a mistake, has given us that fantastic podium. So one question on Perez. I know the answer before I even ask you, mate. Can he win this championship? Or is this really going to be just Hamilton versus Verstappen all the way?
He's got the ability, but I don't think Red Bull would let it happen. It would have to be Max losing out and getting lots of DNFs without any involvement of Perez for him to have a shot at it, I think.
I suppose the question was wrong, really. Of course he can win it. Just it's a case of will he. So do some more super chats before we roll on to Charles Leclerc. Where did we get to last time out? Thank you to Andrew again for another contribution. Says we need to test on multiple tracks. Justin says credit to Red Bull for asking for the red flag. I agree. I think that was a really good thing to do. They could have easily let that race finish under the safety car, couldn't they? So to turn around and say, give us the red flag so we can all change tyres for safety, that was a good thing to do, because they could have easily played the team game there and gone, oh, no, it's fine. And as it turns out, by doing that, they actually got a better result from it. Really, which is crazy when you think about it. I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, Johnson, did you want to throw something in there?
No.
Okay,
I was just agreeing.
Okay. Jamie says, I think either Pirelli needs to go. Michelin got blackballed for one mistake in 2005, yet this has happened a few times now, and the drivers constantly complain about the tyres, about not being able to race hard with each other. I mean, Bridgestone and Pirelli used to have punctures, didn't they? But Michelin's thing was just... I don't think it was... What Michelin did in 2005, I can understand why there was anger, but I think it was more about the fact the tyre war had caused that, because they'd taken a risk on things and the surface wasn't quite right, and they just decided to go one tyre manufacturer, I think, because it just made it helped to prevent those things happening. But this isn't the first time we've seen this with Pirelli. As Jamie's saying there, we've seen Silverstone. We saw them. I mean, Hamilton won the bloody race in Silverstone on 3 wheels.
Well, yeah. The thing with 2005 is that people put too much blame and emphasis on the manufacturers, when it was the FIA bringing in the stupidest rule Formula One has ever seen, where pit stops for tyres were outlawed. What the hell is that?
Imagine
also,
that
you might
now.
want to address that one.
Imagine that. I will. I'm going to go through them all. I always get to Charles. I can see you, mate. I'll be there in a minute. He knows I'll get there. Do you think they will change the compound of track for tracks like Silverstone when we know tyre blowouts can happen after today? That's from Luke. Thank you for your contribution, mate. Good question. Super quickly, Jonty, if you were Pirelli, would you consider going... Could have chosen this better. Would you consider going harder for Silverstone?
I feel like that's a weighted question.
Isn't it?
No. See, this is a difficult thing. I'm not sure if I would go harder, because that will guarantee the sort of drawn-out, fairly boring, non-strategic one-stop. I would probably go softer, because when you leave it on that uncertainty in the middle, the teams will always try to eke it out and take more risks. If you go softer, they've got no choice but to go with a 2-stop. You know, if say you got a 60 lap race and the hards absolutely will not do more than 30 laps, they've got to do 2 stops. You know, it takes away that ambiguity.
So like Pirelli turn around and say, set a maximum number of laps, and then that's it. That's the most you can do. That kind of thing. Because they could make that decision after practice, couldn't they? They put all their data out. They know how long they'll go for. So it's an interesting. Well, then we're moving to mandatory 2 stops, which a lot of people know think are a good idea. We'll talk about this one. We'll talk about tyres again in a minute. Venom says 2021 Bottas is the worst Hamilton teammate since 2009 Kovalainen. Ouch. Jamie, thank you again, mate. Says if F1 had Michelin or Bridgestone, they would get better feedback about certain tracks from other series like WEC and Indy. Taylor, thank you very much. Says Sergio killed, but he really botched that restart. He really needs to work on them. Razza, thank you as well to you. Good afternoon, mate. Says regardless of results and tyre issues, race showed that Mercedes can expect in strategy battles if Perez stays on pace a majority of the race weekend. Sage of Light says last Red Bull 1-2 was in Malaysia 2016. Thank you very much, mate. And Charles Edward Cheese, good afternoon, mate. You're always here. You're paying my bills at the minute. I feel like saying thank you and reading your question isn't enough, but I really appreciate that as always, mate. Every contribution to the channel is always appreciated, but that is incredible. Thank you very much, Charles Edward Cheese. Says, inflatables go pop. Glad Stroll Verstappen was safe after crashing at 160, 200 miles per hour. Breaking news, Hamilton and Bottas banished to Aston Martin and Williams respectively. Vettel and Russell to replace them. Effective immediately. Devil emojis. Thank you very much, mate, once again. Thank you for all your super chats. Links and all that in the description if anybody else would like to contribute. But yeah, Charles, I'll keep giving you shout outs throughout the stream. Always appreciated. Charles Leclerc. Pole in Monaco, Jonty. pole yesterday. Yes, I know, lucky because of the red flags and blah, blah, blah. To be fair to him, though, his lap before the red flags came out was good enough to keep Hamilton and Verstappen and co behind him anyway, wasn't it? So it could have been the pole lap even without the red flags. I think Bottas was going quicker, others would have done as well, of course. But fantastic to see Ferrari just up there again, even if it is sort of challenging for the odd pole position, 2 in a row. I say odd, 2 in a row, and picking up some really solid points. So it's great to see the turnaround. I know we've had many a debate on this channel about Ferrari in the past, but another fantastic day for them. 4th place as well for Charlie. Might be a bit disappointed, actually, having started pole to end up 4th, but possibly would have been around there anyway.
I think considering a few of the moments that he had fighting with people and that massive lockup on the first restart, he should be really happy with 4th, because he could have been out of the race straight away there. You know, front wing gone, and at that point he probably would have carried on straight into the wall. You know, it's probably very frustrating for him because that car is fast. They've certainly sorted things out, but I get the feeling that the new power unit has been played around with, and they're getting quite a bit more out of the so-called party mode in qualifying than they are in the race. They didn't really have as much pace today, and we certainly saw that with Sainz.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the lockup. I mean, that they both had moments today, didn't they? But for Leclerc, straight on. I mean, I honestly cringed. I thought he was in the back of Vettel. I thought that was Vettel's day over as well. I honestly didn't think he was going to get that thing stopped and turned. He somehow did. But yeah, good point. There were a couple of moments when he held the lead quite nicely early on, did Charles? And I thought he'd just get swallowed up immediately by Hamilton and Verstappen. And I know it was only a few laps into the race before he started to go backwards, but I think he did a great job to hang on as long as he did. So it is good. I think you could be right about the power unit. I mean, there's question marks over why they were so slow last year around a power unit. They've got lots of explanations and there's lots of theories out there, but I said to Aldas last time out, it just feels right when Ferrari are winning, when they're on pole, when they're challenging for podiums. F1 feels right again. I know that might not be something you agree with or like me saying, mate. We'll not get too much into Ferrari today, but it's just great to see them up there. And I think Charles Leclerc was solid all weekend. Did make that mistake. Carlos Sainz, of course, locking up at turn 8, where Charles Leclerc crashed in 2019, went straight on. And that was straight after his pit stop as well, wasn't it? That was on colder tyres, so that kind of ruined his day, because he was looking good for sort of challenging for top 6 maybe. Still did end up 8th place today, but I think they've got to be happy with where they are. I don't know, really. It's so difficult to think back to that first half of the race because of everything that's happened since, because it's just been absolute chaos. Pitted on lap 9, end of lap 9. Hard tyres, came in with Tsunoda. I think he got the jump on somebody as well, but I didn't jot that one down. So he definitely good strategy player. I think they've got a new strategist this weekend, Jonty, at Ferrari.
Yeah, certainly looks that way. I was just thinking the other thing that it seems to be with that car is that it works much better in hot temperatures.
Yeah.
Because they made a big point of saying, it was much colder when the race started, which seemed to really hurt them in the first sort of 20 laps or so. So that's something they probably need to work on, whether it's attributed to brake cooling or tyre control. I'm not really sure.
No, I don't know. I mean, street circuits, obviously something they're enjoying. Was good in Monaco. Leclerc said on Thursday he thought he'd be back to reality. They'd struggle this weekend, and takes pole, finishes 4th, and leads the race for a few laps. So yeah, really, really great to see them up there. And I think that, Carlos Sainz in my notes, not a huge amount other than that lockup from him. He was kind of in the mix in that midfield battle. Just have a double check. If you can hear the paper, I do apologise. Lockup. He also had the lockup at lap 1, didn't he, in turn 2? That was the other one. So there's a couple of lockups from Carlos Sainz. But yeah, they can't be disappointed with the weekend. Lando Norris, 5th place. Sad day for McLaren. It's got to be said as well. But I think 5th place and 9th place, Norris and Ricciardo, must be chuffed with that, really, given everything. I know it's been a difficult day. Red Bull actually dedicated their win as well, which was lovely. So, yeah, I think Norris, that scrap as well, he had a couple of scraps out there, which were good fun, nice and racy. Daniel Ricciardo, actually, made a really good move on his teammate early doors, so I'm not quite sure why he ended up down in ninth place, Jonty.
I think the thing with the McLarens today is that they had decent pace, but they were too mixed up in the midfield. Every time we saw them on camera, they were scrapping with someone, whether just in front, just behind, attacking or defending. They never really got any chance to run in free air. So they were always hampered by something, which is never a good situation to be in. It's great for us to watch, but really not the best for someone trying to move up and score more points.
No. Let me know in chat if you can think of anything for Danny Rick why he was down in ninth. I can't really think of, I've not got anything written down for him, but he did make that really good move, or that decent move on Norris early doors, and just maybe, like you say, Jonty, stuck in traffic and things like that, just cost him time. But if there is anything, let me know and we can fly through that one. I am going to shoot through these because the big talk is really what was going on sort of towards the end of the race, really. Otherwise, we'll be streaming all night. Don't want to stream all night quite yet. Fernando Alonso, 6th place. Needed that, I think. Big confidence boost. Can't believe I'm saying that about a double world champion. Big confidence boost, but a great move through the restart. I don't know what to say about Fernando. Help me, Jonty.
Fernando just played his experience card, if you like. He seemed to try and stay away from dicey battles or any of the trouble as much as possible and just keep his steady pace up, not really pushing like crazy at any point. Just keep it reasonable and it'll come to you. Street circuit like this, you can't let up until it's over, because as we've seen today, you really never know what's going to happen. And we've seen before here, just poor old Bottas a couple of years ago.
So, of course, there was a... Yes. Was it Norris or was it Ricciardo? Didn't somebody run into the back of one of them? I think they ran into the back of Ricciardo. Might have caused some damage early on if McLaren put their press release out. I'll let you know before the end of the stream, but that could be where Ricciardo's pace fell away to.
Yes, I can't remember who. You're right, someone did.
Yeah, it's quite a big one as well, wasn't it? Quite a hefty whack. First lap, I think, as well. So it was just one of those first lap things or early lap things. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on that one and see what's going on there. But yeah, I'm really happy for Alonso again, up there in 6th place. Some solid points, moves ahead of Ocon in the championship as well. Like you say, I think just maybe today was another one of those days, Jonty, where experience in that midfield was absolutely huge. Giovinazzi apparently ran into it. Was Giovinazzi? Yes. Now I can see it now. Thank you, guys. Your stars. But yeah, maybe just in that midfield, one of those days where experience was absolutely massive and they were massively important. And, Perez wins, Vettel 2nd, Alonso 6th, Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo in the points. And look who's there in 10th place, Kimi Räikkönen, to back up my point. I know we had a fair few retirements, 4 in fact, but, experience massively important in there. And Alonso, what is it Martin Brundle calls him? Is it a wily old fox?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah, that's his usual term for someone who's been around a while. Yeah, as chat have said, it was Gio that hit him.
Yeah.
Which is a shame for Gio, actually, because I don't know if you remember, back at the very start of the race, Gio made up 5 places in like a lap and a half from the start. He was flying and then didn't really do much else. And as someone pointed out, yes, Alonso did overtake about 4 people on the last lap.
Yeah. I was just going to come to that in chat. Yeah, absolutely. Just Alonso being Alonso, doing Alonso. He did something similar, not Monaco. He did something similar in Portugal, was it? Or Spain, put on some fresh tyres late on and just went flying past people and made up a load of positions. That's what he does. And that's the advantage of having fresher tyres, of course, when the field's backed up. And I should say lap 1 of the restart, sorry. It was the restart where the collision happened. A couple of people just correcting me in chat. So, yeah.
Alonso's got form around this track. If someone can manage a lap with 2 wheels,
it's still. I think it was voted one of the comebacks of the season was Alonso somehow getting his car back a couple of years ago with all that damage to the pits, get it repaired and get himself into the race and drove brilliantly, didn't he?
I think he came 7th or something.
Yeah. It's just what Alonso does, which is great. I love that. That's fantastic, and that's why that experience is going to be so vital to Alpine, not just on the track on days like today, but off the track. Of course, disappointed for Ocon. I think he's been. I'm not really mentioning to you at all, Jonty, even in DMs and things, but I think Ocon's been fantastic, really, so far this season. Given that last year he was a little bit meh, he was all right. But this year, I think he's come out up against a double world champion and a massive experienced driver in Fernando Alonso and really put in a fantastic first 5 races, out qualify him across 3 straight weekends at least, I think, or something crazy like that. So really gutted for him to miss out this weekend, because I think he would have been right up there, maybe even knocking on the doors of the podium, because that's kind of what he's done this season. He's been, well into the points and above the likes of Alonso and Ricciardo and co quite regularly, really. So I feel like he could have been on for a mega result as well, which is kind of a shame, but these things happen. I mean, do you feel the same with Ocon this season, or am I overhyping him a little bit? I'm not saying he's been amazing, by the way. I just think he's done a really good job.
He's been better than we've seen. You're definitely right on that one. But he did get really unlucky today. I mean, Christ, did you hear that thing? It sounded like it was mixing cement or something. That was not a race car engine. But no, he's definitely improved, but I think he's still got a lot of work to do, and it's times like this, engine aside, he wasn't that quick at the start of the race. Whether there was issues right from the very first moment, I don't know.
Yeah.
He'll definitely bring it back by the end of the year. He will do a lot better than people expect or think.
It'll be interesting to see how good he looks. That sounds really bad, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. How good when we compare him to Alonso, how good he looks when Alonso's up to speed. Yeah, how it's a bit just sort of contradicting myself a little bit. But how much of this is Ocon performing brilliantly, and how much of this has Alonso been struggling? Do you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes as the season. But Alpine are really happy with him. They seem to be talking about contracts for next year. So, and even some people, just to get back to driver transfer talk, are putting him back in the frame for that second Mercedes seat. I can't see it. I think Russell's jumped the queue. I think that is, if you listen to Alexei Popov, who is a Russian commentator, that deal is all but done for Russell in that car next year alongside Hamilton. We'll see. That is, of course, only speculation. Actually, while I'm saying that, we'll talk about Bottas, because he had a crap weekend. I've bigged him up all week. I've done my best to get right behind him, because everyone thinks I absolutely loathe the guy, but I've done my best to get right behind him. I predict him for the win on Thursday, 12th. I mean, he struggled all weekend. I know Mercedes, they've put a higher downforce wing on the car, so that's not helped him in a straight line. He just could not get up to speed at all, and I think this is... He's had some bad weekends, but I would say this is one of his worst in a Mercedes, Jonty.
Yeah, pretty much. But Stu's just made a good point in the chat. He relies on qualifying, and he is a very, very good qualifier. Over a single lap, as we've seen, and I've said to so many people, you can't say Bottas is a terrible driver, because in qualifying, on equal terms, we've seen multiple occasions of him just flat out beating Lewis. You've got to be pretty special to do that. But he can't do anything in the race. And you watch his race performances over and over again, and how often do you keep going back to that race in Bahrain, 2017? When he could have won, had nothing to lose.
18, yeah.
18. There was plenty of space. He wouldn't have hit anything. He wouldn't have lost second. Just launch it. If it comes off, great, you win. If it doesn't, you're still second. And any time we've seen him actually go for, a proper Ricciardo type move, he's either fluffed it or backed out. That's not how a champion drives. And is it a mental thing? I don't know. There's got to be some mental side to it, because anyone who says they're not intimidated by having Hamilton as their teammate is a liar.
He's not even my teammate, and he intimidates me. Jamie says, if that contract is all but done, then perhaps Bottas is dejected and checked out, as we've seen. It's affected him before. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be. I think just on his future, I think the comments from Toto Wolff after Monaco were very telling. Toto Wolff sits there today saying, "Oh no, we're not going to blame Hamilton for catching that switch. It was a mistake. We're not going to say driver error. These things happen." So I'm paraphrasing completely, just that kind of comment. But then, Bottas stopped slightly too early or too late in his box, and that's why the wheel nut got stuck. Well, all the other 3 came off Toto. I don't know what to tell you, mate. All other three came off fine. So I think I've been saying it for a couple of races now. I think there's a different narrative coming through. You know, they've always been very defensive of him. They've always been very supportive of him. And I'm not saying they're not supportive of him, but it just feels like there's a different atmosphere there. And I think that either a deal is done or Bottas knows that it's likely to happen because, I mean, if Hamilton's staying, you put Russell in that second car, surely. A year or two alongside Lewis, going to do him the world of good.
Yeah, you do that, and by Bahrain, it's the first car. So I would just say Pedro Manuel's got it perfect in the chat. Bottas just consistently lacks consistency. Yeah, that's true. Well, like I've already said, stop hitting it. like I've already said from here at Baku, that was, of all the times to hit the tiniest little bit of carbon fiber. I mean, that was really, really unfortunate. But it's not bad luck all the time.
No, I mean, Monaco, I say that's all bad luck. People don't like it, but it's true. Yes, you know, you can blame who you want for the Russell incident at Imola. Should he have been racing a Williams? Really? I don't think so. That's not luck. Shouldn't be down there. I know it was a wet day and there was all sorts going on, but I don't know. We'll see with Bottas. Enough of the transfer talk. There's a race reaction, not a transfer reaction. It's not happened yet, but we'll keep an eye on that one definitely. But today, just absolutely nowhere. Kind of went wrong. He was unlucky again with the red flag, but so were seven other drivers, weren't they, at least? So it's just one of those things. Pace isn't there, but if he's not, you know, Toto Wolff made a good point. If the car's not underneath him and he's not confident in the car around a street circuit, he's not going to be that quick, is he? He's going to struggle. So I'll give him that one. But 47 points from 6 races, that's championship done for me. Even with Hamilton and Verstappen retiring, there's no way. With them out, he had to win today. He wins, things suddenly change, and that's a bit of a confidence boost. And then maybe France, he has a great result. He's good in Austria, the season starts to turn. But for me, I think that's it for Bottas. And everyone's going to say in chat it was over about 2 minutes into the first race of the season, Sean. But I really do think that's game over for Bottas in the championship. And there was a point today where I thought Russell was going to fight him. I thought Russell, you know, we were closing that gap, and I thought, oh, that's going to hurt.
Symbolic.
Yeah, that's the moment, isn't it? People talk about symbols of, you know, thinking back to the Schumacher dominance era and drawing parallels with Verstappen coming back at Hamilton to take this fight for the title. But, you know, that would have been just as symbolic. Russell passing Bottas, I do feel for him. You know, they had to go different ways with their wings because they were struggling because Red Bull just had so much control over Mercedes for much of the weekend, but just wasn't good enough today. Didn't seem aggressive. And I've got to say, his positioning at the restarts, the safety car restarts, seemed really weird. I don't know if you've seen the replays of him. I caught it on Twitter before we went live, but he's just instantly defensive on the inside of, I think it's turn 2, and he's got cars on his outside. Giovinazzi, one goes past him, then Giovinazzi skates past him on the run to turn 7. It just seemed like he wasn't there today. But then he doesn't want to be battling down in 10th, 11th, 12th place, does he? So probably wasn't there at all. Probably just no confidence in the car. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But I think he needs to prepare himself to be Barrichello or Massa 2.0 for the rest of the year, I think.
Well, I mean, is this part of the problem? You know, we had Bottas and then he turned it around, came out, Bottas 2.0, and then we had Bottas 3.0. Have we now ended up with Bottas Vista?
That could be one of the harshest things you've ever said on this channel. Comparing Valtteri Bottas to Vista. That is horrible, mate. Oh, dear. That's terrible. I'm not having that. Leave my Valtteri alone. Whatever.
It is a shame. I genuinely like him. I love watching him in qualifying. And the fact that he was quite happy to go along with the 2.0 stuff. You remember the videos they made when he's got the beard on down to his knees and all the rest of it? It was fantastic. You know, it shows that he's a likable guy, personable within the team, but geez, something's got to give. He's got to change or go.
I've got a note here on Bottas. Oh, I understand it now. I was going to read it as I read it. It makes no sense. But now I've managed to translate my own handwriting. Did go wide at turn 16 when chasing down Norris. So I'm fully expecting in the press release from Mercedes some kind of excuse about a little bit of floor damage on the curve, because I mean, to be fair, that would be just his luck. There always seems to be something for Bottas, doesn't there, when it comes to an excuse, but maybe that's what we're looking at. I don't know. We might hear something in the press release from them on that, but he did go wide at 16. Just couldn't pass Norris. The straight line speed wasn't there, and that's just not what we've come to expect. But we'll move on from Bottas. I am going to start doing more live streams for anybody wondering, by the way. And we will sit down and I'll take lots of your questions and we'll do lots of silly season talk. And garage gossip will be coming back soon as well, because it's the summer. I like to bring that back in the summer. So, yes. Who are we going to go to? I tell you I was going to go to, actually. Kind of nice to be talking about these a little bit earlier in the stream, only briefly. But Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, 13th and 14th. Doesn't sound like a big result. It's a huge result for Haas, because if Williams don't manage to finish above 13th this season, which I think they might, but if they don't and score no points, that is 9th in the constructors for Haas. They've moved up one place, which could be worth quite a bit of money. And also, Mick Schumacher moves above George Russell in the Drivers' Championship, which again, no points, but I think that highlights just how solid Schumacher's start to the season has been at Haas. I think he's not been amazing, but nobody's going to be amazing in that car. Nobody is. But I think he's done a really good job, and he's now ahead of, George Russell, who's so highly rated by everybody. I know Russell had a bad day today with his retirement and the Imola thing and some other stuff, but I think that's a great result for Haas today. I really do. And I didn't think I'd be saying that, Jonty.
No, very surprising. They were actually relatively quick for the situation and for how bad we know that car is. Yeah, I can't remember whether it was Mick or Nikita who had a bit of a... Let's just say that Haas felt nostalgic and decided not to put the wheel on properly.
Yeah, flashbacks. So this one's for you, Rogro. Maybe. I don't... Yeah, that was the one thing, really, wasn't it, for Mick? Wheel off. Great reactions from the team, by the way, to know that wasn't on, given that the left front mechanic was pretty sure it was on. That suddenly changed. But yeah, I imagine that'll be an unsafe release penalty if it's not been confirmed already. That's generally, whether he gets out of the pits or not, that's an unsafe release. So fully expect to see some action on that one. Nikita Mazepin, we'll do the positive first, because I have a feeling, Jonty, you might want to say something on Mazepin, but we'll do the positive first. 14th place today, ahead of Latifi. Yes, Latifi had his penalty as well to add to that, but 14th place moves him ahead of Latifi in the championship. So a result, and people keep laughing at me when I say it, but when it comes to Mazepin, it's kind of small victories at the moment. It's another street track. He's finished the race, not stuck it in the wall on lap 3. So it's another race in the bag. And that's what, I think I've said before, that's what both Haas drivers need to be doing this season, just finishing races. And then when you get a bit of chaos like today, you get a result like that, which moves your place up in the championship. That's all they can do. Like Russell and Kubica at Williams in 2019, the car was so bad, they just consistently finished the first 12, 13, 14 races to keep themselves in contention. That's what Haas needs this season, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When you were talking, I was just thinking of the Williams 2019. It wasn't quick by any stretch of the imagination, but it was reliable. And they were always there just in case something went down. And Germany, the weather went down. It led to them getting a point. We've already had some chaos this year. And the weather's getting more chaotic all the time. I don't know if anyone else saw the pictures of Spa across the weekend. I mean, totally different subject. I mean, will we even get a race at Spa now? Who knows? All it needs is one race like that. The cars at the back, pulling around, way out of the trouble. In come the points. You've got to respect Haas for keeping at it, even though they're not really developing the car.
I mean, maybe they could do some rain like that at Spa, because perhaps the Haas will be better as a boat, because it's not a great racing car. Maybe that would be a benefit for them. I don't know. But there was one thing. We've got to go for it. Nikita Mazepin. Why do I keep using his full name? I do it with Lewis Hamilton as well. I never say Hamilton. It's always Lewis Hamilton. Mazepin. I think it's the last lap going onto the straight. Mazepin getting slipstreamed by Schumacher, makes a sudden jink to the right, but then suddenly jinks left, and Mick Schumacher has to react like a cat to avoid what would have been a massive aeroplane crash, and he was not happy, gesturing at his teammates, stopping after the race or pulling alongside very slowly to make sure he knew what he thought of that one. Very dangerous from Mazepin. I have only seen one angle. I'm going to say what I said for K-Mag, I think it was in 2018. I'll wait till I've seen the onboard of Mazepin before I go absolutely mad. He may not have seen Mick Schumacher there, but either way, Jonty, weaving on a straight like that when you must know there's a car in close proximity is incredibly dangerous, because that's a big crash. That's not a almost climbing the catch fencing. That's in the catch fencing.
That's over it. And he saw. I've seen a clip of his onboard. He was looking in that mirror all the way. Like you can dart that aggressively, but not that late. You got to make your moves when the driver behind, has still got time. You can't just leave it till the last second, so they have to move. It was ridiculous. Someone actually had to go at me for calling him out on it. Saying you wouldn't be saying that for anyone else, or saying other drivers on the grid have done equal or worse. Like, yeah, I'm sure some have. Name one, and I'll say that I've called them idiots as well.
You're also generally the first person on Twitter to call people like that out when they do stuff like that, whether it's
usually
whether it's Mazepin or not. It's irrelevant. It's not a hate thing towards him. I've just given him his credit for a good weekend, apart from his crash in practice, I think it was. But yeah, I think it's a dangerous move, and there's nothing wrong with aggressive defense, but that's just, I don't know, I've not seen the onboard, but it's what we saw in F2, didn't we, a lot with him. Very, very aggressive on the defense, and I think you're not going to get away with that. And just think about it this way, just from a team perspective, I hope they have a word, because, and I'm sure they will, Gunther Steiner is one that will have more than a word, I'm sure, but that's an accident, both wiped out. That's not ninth in the constructors anymore. That could cost them money, so
yeah, exactly.
They just need to finish the race and don't do stupid things, because that's so dangerous. And that goes for every driver. Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I hate all the things that come with him off track, but when it's on the track, I try to strictly keep it to judging on that behavior and what someone does. And it's a fair shout to say that he's been an idiot in that situation. I won't say that, he's rubbish, he's terrible, this is what we expected, Mazepin, like for Bahrain, because Mick did it in the exact same place. You can't say on one and not the other, because there it's clearly the terrible car. But on this occasion, he's done something really stupid. Yes, call him out for it, no matter who it is.
I don't know what else to add on that. I'm just going to let you have that. I think you kind of summing up what I'm thinking there anyway with him. I think it's just a daft thing to do. But there you go. We'll move on. Latifi, Russell. Do another one of those days where Williams could have had a point today, I think. If things had maybe, I don't know, tough to really call because we won't know, will we? But they... Oh, he's heard something.
No, sorry, you were just talking about Williams. I just remembered one of the incidents.
Go on then.
No,
I can scroll through my notes then.
The red flag.
Oh, of course, Latifi. Yeah, that's why he got his penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So in case he was basically, in case anybody missed it, he was, when the red flag comes out in Formula One and they're told to go through the pit lane, they've got to come straight in, is the point. He then gets the pit entry and his team say, was it stay out, or something like that, or along those lines, and he stays out, and then they say into the pit lane, don't box, or something like that, and he's already gone past the start-finish straight, and of course that's where Verstappen's accident is. You've got marshals there, debris, you've got the truck is there, and he doesn't go flying past, to be fair to him, he slows down. He then has to do a whole lap and then back for to the pits for the red flag. That is a big no-no, a big no-no, but that's a complete team error. But unfortunately, it's one of those situations where it's a team mistake, but as everyone often says on the grid, you win as a team and you lose as a team, so it was always going to be a penalty for Latifi as well. But total cock up on the radio with that one, Jonty. What a mess.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it might have been, someone said, during when it was safety car before they red flagged it, but even so, everyone's been told to come into the pits. And he said, stay out. Latifi says, what? hey, you told me to stay out. And he says, well, no, we meant come in the pits, but don't box. It was just absolute. It was something from Monty Python and 42 Hours. They need to have clear, concise instructions. In and out means specifically the pit lane, as we've seen in the past. You know, Lewis in Germany, was it? In.
Yeah.
He reacted instantly to the words in and out, no matter what else was said. It was in. He was coming in, and then stay out, and he went out, all in the space of a couple of seconds. You can't mess about with stuff like that.
Well, as Sue just said, whoever decided stay out means pit, but not pit in the box is dumb. That's such a crap communication. Stay out to Williams means pit, but don't pit in the box.
Yeah. What? That's like something that you would expect from Williams a couple of years ago, because they've been slowly starting to get things sorted, like last year and this year. This is something you'd have expected from them in like 2018, when they were just calamitous in nowhere. Yeah,
when they were just sort of there. Just an absolute mess. And Latifi was doing all right up to that point when he wasn't having an amazing race, but he could have picked up something today if things had gone their way. They did try the gamble with Russell early on, didn't they? Get him on the hards at the end of lap 1 and try and take them all the way. I mean, thank goodness they didn't try that. That could have been a big blowout if that had carried on. But disappointing for him to retire. I've not seen why Russell had to retire. It looks like a mechanical issue. Very slow into the pits as they went round to the grid. But again, another opportunity for a really good result, because I think they would have beaten Haas today. At the very least, you'd be looking at maybe them being 13th and 14th instead. But Bottas was struggling. They might have picked him off. You know, the field was so bunched up. Some fresh tyres and a racy George Russell. Never say never, of course, in F1, but yeah, do you think Williams will score points this year, by the way, Jonty? I'm confident they'll get one, at least.
Yeah, I do think they'll get one, but not with strategies like that. I will never understand that strategy unless there's weather involved. Like the Great Winkle Rock. You know, why start on this tyre and then pit at the end of lap 1 for the hard to go long? Just start on the hard, because this way all they've done is given away 30 seconds.
That's true.
Yes, he'll be in clear air, but he's never going to make that up.
One thing I do want to address, which we didn't actually talk about Tsunoda, I've just remembered. Superb weekend for him, and just what he needed to bounce back as well. 7th place. Great for AlphaTauri, full stop, but I think it's a big weekend for him and some really nice points. He's quite a punchy young lad on the team radio, isn't he? All right, shut up, was what he gave his engineer at one point, which was brilliant. Loving that. Not quite as sweary as we're used to seeing, but there was a report from McLaren reported Tsunoda to the stewards for not slowing down under double waved yellows, and this is why I'm loving this FIA team radio thing we're getting now. Michael Massey, firm and clear to McLaren, he said every single driver should be penalised for not slowing under the yellow flags. McLaren came back and said, yeah, but Tsunoda was quicker, we slowed a little bit. And essentially Massey came back and said a little bit isn't enough, it's double waved yellows. I'm not going to penalise him because everybody did it and everyone would get a penalty. So I'm loving that. He is going to bring it up in the drivers' meeting. I know safety is a big thing when we're on these streams together anyway, Jonty, but not slowing down under double waved yellows is just such a big no-no, because that could be marshals on track, driver in the middle of the track, car, God knows what. So you need to slow down. So McLaren kind of getting put in their place there by the FIA. I'm not excusing Tsunoda if he was going quicker than the McLarens were. It's not. You shouldn't be lifting off a little bit under double waved yellows. As Martin Brundle says, double waved yellow flags means slow down and be prepared to stop. So it's not slow down a little bit, it's get ready because you might have to slam your brakes on, basically. So yeah, unacceptable to be driving quickly under double waved yellows, but I'm loving this FIA communication because it gives us as fans a bit more transparency, doesn't it, Jonty? It gives that insight, and what we've been calling for is let's hear your decision-making process. Let's hear how this all works, so that when we have, dare I say it, Canada 2018 situations, was it 18 or 19? Seb Vettel cutting the corner. Might be 19, but when we get situations like that and you put penalties out, we want to hear a bit more of it. So really pleased to see that innovation.
Yeah, and at first I was crying. At first I was impressed with what I heard from Massey, because when we've heard him talk in interviews and stuff before, he's always sounded not dominant, not in control as the man who has power. And yet, on that radio today, he definitely sounded like someone saying, no, you shut up. I'm the race director. You do what I say. My word is law.
Sounded in
which
control.
is exactly how it should be. Sorry, Michael, but you're not there to make friends. You're there to keep it safe. This is literally your one job. There's probably a million bloody little jobs that are attached to it, but that's his primary purpose. However, I've been chatting with people on Twitter for quite a while about this. What's the point in saying, well, everyone was doing it, so everyone should get a penalty? Then give everyone a bloody penalty. Just do it. It won't change the race result. Everyone gets a 10-second time penalty.
But it's consistent.
But what you do is everyone gets 2 points on the license, because it is a safety matter. Like you say, double wave yellows, slow down, be prepared to stop. And it's such a balancing act for him. I'm really happy to hear him being far more firm, considering the last 2 years of utter garbage we've had from him. But what's the point in doing it if you're not going to do it? As someone in the chat said, we should penalise everyone. Doesn't penalise anyone. No, penalise everyone. Fine them all. Give them all points. Make that point. You've got to, or else they're always going to be taking the mick.
You keep punching that mic, mate. You are determined to beat it today.
I'm going to have to move it, put it in a different place.
Give it a kicking. Tsunoda, just on Tsunoda as well. Past Alonso into turn 1, lap 7. I think he's a nice racy driver, Tsunoda. I quite like him. I think he needs to cool down a little bit. He gets a little hot-headed. Moved to Faenza, of course, now to be closer to AlphaTauri. So I'm hoping having the team that close to him is really going to give him a boost. But another driver, I mean, you can say it about Perez, Vettel, not so much Gasly, because I think the AlphaTauri's been under-delivering this year. I think it is quicker than we've seen in results, but I think Alonso as well, like I say, Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, some pretty big results for them today that will hopefully just enable them to kick on their season. And I'm going to say this as well. I know there were people watching this afterwards going, I wish he'd stick to an order or whatever. I'm loving just sitting here and talking about the racing without worrying about running through the order in a specific order and having to worry about my notes. That's the point of a reaction, is it not? To sit down and react and talk together and involve chat, which I'm going to get to you all in a minute, and just have a good old waffle, Jonty. I like this. We'll definitely do it again. Instead of worrying too much about the order. 547 likes, 2,091 watching, generally around 2,100. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Please do leave a like if you haven't already. Let's get that well over 700 today. 500 of those need to go to Charles Edward Cheese as well. One for each of his dollar donations. So we make sure we get well over that. And then a couple of hundred for me and Jonty. 100 each. We'll share them, Jonty. Yeah.
Likes for dollars.
We'll talk later. No. Absolutely not. Driver of the day, official driver of the day, Sebastian Vettel. Not a great surprise there at all. One surname in chat whilst you're all liking the video as well, so I'm asking you to multitask. Who is your driver of the day? Jonty, I'm going to say it right now. Mine is Sebastian Vettel. End of. I'm not even going to have this conversation. I'm not even debating it. You know why. He was well down the field, all the way through to second place. Kept it cool. Always in the fight. Great tyre management. Good strategy. Racy when he needed to be. Smiling at the end. That's all I want. Who's your driver of the day, Jonty?
Yeah, Vettel. It's not even a debate. 18 laps on the softs for that opening stint and maintaining times within 0.3 of the leaders. That's the outstanding performance.
Just brilliant. I mean, if you pushed me for a second, I'd be tempted to say Perez soaking up that pressure from Hamilton through pretty much most of the race, to be fair, and then managing to get that to the win. And obviously, don't forget as well, Perez stopped a few meters after the line with a mechanical issue. Said they were so close to having to retire that car. So that's the look, that's the twist in the look there that Red Bull needed. Mercedes needed him to retire, but that Red Bull needed. But yeah, great Great drive from Perez as well. It's difficult to pick a driver of the day sometimes, but that was the easiest one I think I've ever done. It's not a bias thing. It's not a hate to Gasly and co, who have done brilliant jobs. I can't think. Not a foot wrong and an all round spot. You know, like this. Here he goes again with his loose footballing terms or connection to Formula One. But like a perfect hat trick is left foot, right foot, header. That's kind of what Sebastian Vettel did today. Didn't get the win, but strategy everything was perfect, and he did a little bit of everything. So that's why he's my driver of the day. Leave me alone. I know what I'm talking about. It all makes sense in my head before it falls out my mouth, and then you all think I'm crackers. Nothing new there. We know. Ben says Vettel. Adam, thank you very much, mate. He says Vettel as well. Punky Pink 83, aka Emily, who I always say I'm just going to call Emily, but have to do the full name, says Vettel. Munro's gone with Perez. Sparky PvP says Vettel. Max Claydon, stop asking about marbles, says Sebastian Vettel. Rusty Gusty, cracking name, says Vettel, no questions asked. Scroll down a bit further. Jamie says Seb. F1 Fan 89 says Mazepin. Graniani says Vettel, not Ricardo. Oh, there you go. Razvan says Vettel. Liam's gone with 100% Vettel. BC says Vettel. Elian says Perez. Bananas Type 350 says Kimi. I love names on bloody YouTube. Josh Mason says Vettel. James L says Perez. Jose says Vettel. Scroll down a bit further. Isaac says Vettel. You see where we're going here, I think, quite clearly. You can see why he won the drive of the day. Let's see. Built to JZ Lexus says Perez. I wanted to get that one right. Shout out to Gio, says Benjamin. 11th place. Gio's done a good job. Good job this season, I think. David says Ericsson. There's always one. Timothy says Vettel. I'm trying to see if anybody's got a serious something different. Checo. It is all Vettel and Checo. And do you know what, Jonty? I cannot disagree with that. I don't even think I've seen... Oh, a couple of Gaslys now starting to come through, which is good to see. But for serious ones, it is predominantly Vettel and Perez. And I think that's about right on today's performances.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got a completely unrelated question. I have to ask it. Is that just a name, or did you really build a 2JZ Lexus? Because if you did, you're a crazy person. And it's awesome. Now, honorary shout goes to Kimi. We know the Alpha's terrible, and he's dragged a point out of it.
Yeah. Again, that experience thing that I said earlier. I was just going to say, you've known me for nearly 4 years, and you think I can build a Lexus.
No, not you, the person in the chat.
I was going to say, I thought you were asking me. I was like, really? I can't even get me socks on a morning most mornings. I got me pants on my head and my t-shirt around my waist. God knows. But anyway, enough about my issues at home. Definitely. I put the milk in the washing machine the other day. But anyway, let's not, instead of fabric softener, don't ask, okay? Haven't told my partner yet. That's going to be delicious when they start to smell. Anyway, yes. Yeah, Kimi, absolutely. 1 point on the board. Alfa Romeo, their second point of the season. I think Kimi just Kimmy's every now and again, doesn't he? That's what we're going to say. He's thereabouts and has okay weekends, and every now and again he just does a Kimi, and you go, oh, really good drive from Kimi. How the hell did he end up there? But yeah, definitely. I'm just going to scroll through some super chats now. Start to scroll through some more. I'm revealing way too much about my life, and I need to stop it. We've done Venom's Kovalainen comment, which I think was brutal. Andrew, thank you very much again, mate. It says Checo getting 25 points while Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen got nothing. Could have implications for the constructors. Is a split championship possible? I tell you what, actually, if Bottas doesn't pull his finger out, he could actually cost Mercedes the constructors this year. You know, Hamilton could win the drivers, and if Bottas doesn't perform, he could cost them the constructors. And then I can tell you now, he's definitely out next year. There's no question about it, because if Perez kicks on from here and he is there, we've seen today the difference it makes when Red Bull have a second car there. They're in trouble, Mercedes, with the constructors. But the trouble is, Jonty, you just can't rule them out. This weekend, they were nowhere. They were on for second place come the end until Hamilton's issue could have won it.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have. Oh. See, I'm trying not to read too much into this weekend because of the track. Because you've got that straight where people can make up a hell of a lot of time just by really suffering in the corners. You know, I'd love to see some deltas from like one of the team's strategy simulations on what's going to lose them more. You know, suffering in the corners to gain it on the straights or the other way around. I mean, it suggests that taking off the downforce is the way to go because Bottas had more and the car was nowhere. So, yeah, where we are, France next.
Yay!
Well, I was going to say we might see something meaningful. No, it certainly won't be the track.
The thing is, though, like France is very much a Mercedes track. Most tracks seem to be in this turbo hybrid era, but it's very much a Mercedes track. Austria can favour Red Bull, but it's also a track that Bottas tends to go well at as well. I think the next real read of the running order could well be Silverstone. Thinking about it, maybe I'm crackers on that one. And then we've got the flipping sprint races, haven't we, as well? That's going to be fun. Sprint quali. I mustn't say sprint race. Sprint quali. Thank you very much. I'm going to come to Black Hawk So's comment in a minute because I want to read that one out and kind of discuss it a little bit. But Harandeep Singh, thank you very much, mate. Says, let's hope Max's PU and or gearbox are all right after that shunt. Good point. Also, anyone who put money on Mazepin finishing ahead of Hamilton is a millionaire now. Definitely. And thank you to AC as well. Says Max for driver of the day. Thank you very much, mate. And Black Hawk says Pirelli saying in an interview with Sky Germany they have found cuts in the same wheel on a tyre that came off Hamilton's car. That's concerning because if it's the left rear again, which is what Black Hawk is saying there, that's a worry. That's a serious worry. And clearly there's something. Maybe they have gone too soft this weekend, Jonty. Maybe it is as simple in air quotes as that.
No, I'm going to stick with my thinking about the new construction.
It's a fair point.
You work out. I can't even begin to remember the full formulas and what have you. But when you're working out the force going outwards from a rotating body, there is one of the velocities is squared. So the more weight you add, it just gets much higher. And when the pictures I've seen, there's only a few, but of the failed tyres I've seen, it's completely clean around the shoulder where the wall meets the tread. You know, you get sort of the frayed bits of canvas, but it's like a complete tear all the way around. It just needs to fail in one little spot, and all of the rest will just unzip. Yeah, thank you, Upov. That's the one. And to see that on two to actually happen, and also telltale signs that it might have been going on a third one. Yes, it is worrying.
I'll read
and
this.
It's worrying for when we get to Monza.
Yeah, even Silverstone,
really worrying. And even potentially Hungary. For all of its twists and turns, that's a hell of a long straight.
Courtesy of Philip Horton over at Motorsport Week. It says Formula One tyre supplier Pirelli says it will undertake a full investigation into the failures suffered in Azerbaijan and labelled Lewis Hamilton lucky after a cut was found post-race. So Pirelli boss Mario Azzola said, looking at the tyres used in the second stint for most of the drivers, we didn't find any evidence of damage. I believe I can exclude that failures were due to tyre wear because it is not a matter of tyre wear. He pointed out that drivers, notably Ferrari, Charles Leclerc and McLaren's Lando Norris, had carried out longer stints on the hard tyres. That's true, compared to Stroll and Verstappen. The preliminary investigation is that if it is probably due to an external factor or debris, curb or whatever, but Azzola says he doesn't want to jump into a full conclusion. They found a cut on the inside shoulder of the rear left tyre used by Hamilton in the same stint. Wow. The cut was quite deep and big and probably 6 to 7 centimetres. That's not a little cut, is it, at all? But it was not cut in the construction, so the tyre was still in one piece, just the tread is cut. And when there was the red flag and Lewis came to the pit lane and changed the tyres, we were able to find the cuts. In the case of Lewis, the cut was not deep enough to cut the construction, so he was lucky because of that. And in the case of Max and Lance, there was an air loss and therefore a failure. So possibly curb, possibly debris. I'm not quite sure where Stroll's debris would have come from, given that nothing had happened collision-wise to that point, but
the only thing there had been for Strolls was a branch twig of some description. And if you've ever been near a Formula One tyre, it's going to be, to do that kind of damage, it's got to be a significant branch. We would have been looking at a safety car. A twig ain't going to do that.
Wasn't there a branch on track at turn 15 that Leclerc, Verstappen, and Perez all avoided?
Yeah, that's the one I'm on about.
I thought you'd seen a different one. Sorry, yeah. So
I'm sorry, it sounds like Isola's trying to cover their butts. There is no way you get 3 identical cuts from a curb or something on the track, because everyone would have it. They would have something. They might not all have failures, but every single tyre would have some mark on it.
yeah, I'm not quite sure what to say to that. I'll probably digest that a bit, but I think it does sound very much like, please don't ring the lawyers. Probably exaggerating that one a tad. A couple of press releases in, which I'm not going to go over today because we've been streaming for a little while. I do want to come to you guys in chat. Some feedback I got the other day is that we don't do enough Q&A at the end of chat, so I want to do a good 10 or so minutes at least with you all, because you've taken the time in your evening to sit with us and listen to us talking absolute bloody nonsense, which is great. Like count, by the way, 673. We are 27 away from 700. Let's do it. Pop your questions in chat. Absolutely. I had a question for you, Jonty, and it's literally, as it went to fall out my mouth, has just disappeared from my brain. How are you, mate? I cannot remember what the question was now. It was about Giovinazzi. I was just going to ask you, because we've kind of talked about it. I spoke with Dan, I spoke with Aldas about it. How do you rate his season so far? Because I think, and the reason I want to ask you is because we've had these conversations a couple of years ago about how we weren't really overly thrilled, but not excited to see Giovinazzi. We were quite sceptical about him coming to Formula One, didn't think he was going to do a particularly great job, but he's really improving year on year, isn't he? And he's had another really solid start to the season.
Yeah, he has. He's been quite good, and has he been matching Raikkonen quite often? Yeah, and with quality and race pace, he's been, much better than you would assume that car would do. I think he's definitely stepped up a bit. But he's obviously being held back because that Alpha is nowhere near as good as it was in years gone by. I don't know how they managed to go up and down so much at that outfit. Whether as Alpha or Sauber, they're just up and down so much. Will they ever have any consistency, for God's sake?
Nominal Time says, what happened to Russell? Great timing, Nominal Times. You see? Press release literally just come through from Williams, saying that Russell couldn't take the restart due to a suspected gearbox issue. So nothing confirmed on whether it was a gearbox issue, but suspected gearbox issue, which is why he had to pop into the pits and his game was over. You see, just Nominal Times. Yeah, there you go. Dan Philpott wants to know if Haas will score points this year. In a word, Jonty?
Only if we get something more crazy than Germany 2019. It's going to have to be a less than 10 finishing, or 10 or less finishing situation.
Pushing Monaco 96 levels.
Yeah.
It'd be nice. I'd like to see everyone score. I really would, but there you go. I saw a question a second ago from Martin Jones. There it is. It says, who was your favourite points finish today? So outside of the podium, favourite points finish. I'm going to go Yuki Tsunoda. Was really pleased to see him up there today. What about you, Jonty?
Yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see that, especially after his awesome Q1, awesome Q2, utterly disastrous Q3.
Emily says, are you looking forward to Paul Ricard next? Oh, Emily, I can't wait. It's gonna be crap. Closer field this year, of course. So maybe it'll be decent. And absence makes the heart grow fonder. We didn't have a French Grand Prix last year. Maybe we'll absolutely love it. Especially if they get the Gorilla trophies, I will personally rate it a 10 out of 10. That's like, you remember the Gorilla trophies?
No. We've had the Gorilla trophies. This year, it's got to be a model of the Empire State Building, and then next year we'll have some planes that they can put around it. So it's just, they can make a big King Kong diorama.
Yes, and maybe they'll bring grid drafts. I want grid
don't
drafts.
don't go on that one again. You'll set ST off.
Tozer says thoughts on Tictum accident and penalty. I will say as well, massive shout out to Yuri Vips, fantastic weekend in Formula 2. I think actually a couple of years ago, somebody was often on the stream saying, have you looked into anything about Vips? What do you think of Vips? Should have been watching him I should have listened. Should have been watching him from a younger age, because he's been really stellar. Really good rise for him. Couple of wins. Got his first one yesterday, second one today. Kind of clawing himself into the championship. On the Tictum thing, I mean, whatever he does, somebody somewhere is going to jump on their agenda and tear him down and make sure that they're clear that he's a piece of, for me, honestly, I think, and I think I said to you, Jonty, none of them are blameless in that situation. I don't believe he can. Yes, he slipstreams Marcus Armstrong down to that corner, but he goes for the move on the inside. He's not to know that Marcus Armstrong, because sort of when he's slipstreaming Armstrong's ahead of Pourchaire. So if I was in Tictum's position, I would fully think, well, that's Armstrong ahead. He's going to go through the corner first. Tictum then gets there, Pourchaire is there, and then Armstrong kind of comes across, and I think Tictum does touch Pourchaire first from the replays I've seen from certain angles, but it's pretty much at exactly the same time, and the three of them just collide. I think that if he gets a penalty, that others should have got at least investigated as well. Maybe they're thinking that the other two's races were destroyed anyway, so they've got the penalty. But what I will say is, where was Guan Yu Zhou's penalty on Saturday for wiping Tictum out in turn 1? There was nothing on that. He got investigated and that was it. So just a little lack of consistency. I don't know. I know we've discussed it, Jonty, so I kind of know what you're going to say, but I don't know if you want to let this... If anybody follows him on Twitter, you'll know what he's going to say.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I see blameless there is Pourchaire. Because...
kind of squeezed.
Yeah, he can see both of them. You know, he's trying to sort of defend from Tictum and maybe try and defend from Armstrong a bit, but he's ultimately got nowhere to go. Armstrong, if Tictum's getting a penalty for that, Armstrong has to get a penalty as well. He really does, because he did turn in quite early. You know, you look at the shots and the replays, even without Tictum there, Pourchaire hasn't got enough room to make the corner. Simple as that. That Tictum probably should have backed out a bit, and his radios at the end really doesn't need to do. He needs to stay cool, because he's been really improving his image as well, and how he's seen and his attitude, as well as his on-track stuff. It's not really the way to keep that going. He's just set himself back 5 months. And as people said, Pourchaire ended up with a broken wrist, which must come from the wheel-to-wheel contact as it snaps the steering wheel down. Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be better for Silverstone. Hopefully.
Yeah.
6 weeks away, so he might be okay, but depends how bad the break is, of course. But just on the team radio thing, I sort of agree, but then people will meme Kimi Räikkönen and Yuki Tsunoda when they do it.
Yeah.
I sound like a right Tictum fanboy. I'm not. I believe in what drivers do on track, and I've always maintained, despite our criticisms of him, Jonty, and you can back me up on this, I've always said he's a bloody quick driver. There's no denying he's got speed and he's got potential. It's just the other things he's done in his career, and then his mouth runs away with him. But people will then meme Kimi Räikkönen when he's shouting at his team, and they'll meme Yuki Tsunoda when he's effing and jeffing, as my mum would say, over team radio. So I get what I would say is, I think his Instagram post that he put out was quite clear that people need to understand that these drivers are under so much pressure, especially F2. What I will actually, no, forget that for a second. Big telling thing from his Instagram post was that he was clear this was his last season to get into F1. So Tictum sort of almost confirming already that if he doesn't do it this year, that's it. He's not going to be in F2 next year. So that's how fickle things are in Formula 2. And that's why these drivers are under so much pressure. And every single time there's a gap, they've almost got to go for it, because they've got to... If they're not making those moves, people aren't going to be impressed with them. They're not going to, they don't want them colliding, if you know what I mean. But they don't want drivers who are like, oh no, I'll wait. They don't want tentative drivers. What has got to be said though is, and I kind of made the point to you, Jonty, earlier, if you put Alonso, Raikkonen and Hamilton in that situation, Alonso on the inside, Raikkonen in the middle, Hamilton on the outside, Hamilton and Alonso. Alonso probably backs out, and Hamilton probably gives a lot more space. I think an experienced driver, a more mature experienced driver, even one of them in there doesn't have that collision, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It is sort of little bits of it's either inexperience or just real hunger for the results, which is also just as high, if not possibly higher, in F2. And sometimes people do silly things. There was another incident right at the very start with Liam Lawson. I love Liam Lawson. I think he's ace. But that push across Boschung, no, can't be having that. I can't believe people were actually defending him, saying that there's no need to get a penalty for that. It was ridiculous.
It was. I saw on Twitter, it might even have been you that tweeted that, Johnny, but I saw on Twinter. I saw on Twinter that, which is what we use in the winter when Twitter's down. I think somebody said it must have been you who said that it was close to Barrichello Schumacher in the wall at Hungary. So yeah,
you got to think where it is. If they'd made contact and gone into the wall and bouncing off, they're second and third. Half of the field would have been out.
I think Lawson's one to watch for the future. I wouldn't say he's F1 ready yet, and I don't think Vips is, but what I will say just on driver transfers quickly, one more year for Gasly at AlphaTauri, and then in comes a Vips or a Lawson to go alongside Tsunoda if he picks up, or even both of them come in if Tsunoda doesn't get going. I mean, I said to you earlier, I think if Williams, I know he might not want to go there, but if Williams want a driver to build their future around, if Russell moves on, I think they could do a lot worse than Pierre Gasly. I think he'd be a great fit at Williams. It's just whether he trusts that they will make that move forward. So I think seeing Vips or Lawson in F1, I think it feels a little bit like an inevitability. I know F2 is a very, like I say, fickle championship. Things can change on one weekend, can't they? But yeah, F2's been brilliant. I think it's been great this year. It really, really is. Let's pop into some super chats, some more questions though. But yeah, congratulations to Yuri Vips for a cracking weekend. AK says, I hope everything Dan Grosjean Army is all right. He promised us videos this week. I was waiting for his transfer talk video. Obviously, it's none of my business really, but I will say just on Dan's side of things at the minute, he's back at work now for his family, and he's very busy, and he's had uni and all that. And obviously, I'm 35. I can sit here and talk about F1 whenever, and I can throw videos out whenever I want and stream whenever I want. But for Dan, he's got work and he's got university as well. And I would say that, with all due respect to YouTube and YouTubers, uni's probably a bigger priority than YouTube at the minute. So he'll always be around. He'll do his race weekend stuff, he's been saying, but I'm not saying to you, AK, but I've seen a few people give him a bit of grief, but just understand people have lives, and he's probably busy, but Dan will always do something, even if he just uploads a video once a month where he talks about how amazing Grosjean is, because he's deluded. This GP weekend would definitely put some financial strain on teams down the line, as we're only 6 races into the season. Thank you very much to Harinder Yeet again for that one. Great point. Expensive weekend for a number of teams. Another expensive one for Red Bull with that crash for Max Verstappen, obviously for Aston Martin as well. Power units already starting to become a talking point. Yeah, it is going to get expensive around places like Baku. So see how that makes a difference. And that's David P saying, how will damage from accidents impact the team budget caps? You'd like to think, Jonty, that there'd be some damage amount kind of factored into their budget cap, so they know we need to put this aside just in case. You'd like to think.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is for things like front wings. Yeah, they'll probably budget for 5 or 6. But I think they all bring 3 per car or something like that. Really, that's what they aim for, with a couple of spares. But it is going to be difficult. And how much is this going to impact the construction of the car, the construction processes? Are they going to have to keep refining things to make it cheaper? And obviously, we have no idea how these 2022 cars are going to look.
Also, potentially facilities as well. A smaller team might not have enough staff to to do the repairs. Well, I'm sure they will, but you know what I mean. There might be fewer people to put on 2022 as it is, and they might have to pull people off that could be an impact. I don't know. I'm looking forward to next year because I think the changes are for the long-term good of the sport. But the way things are at the minute with how close things are, I kind of wish they'd push them back another year. But anyway, Black Hawk so says on a lighter side, following on from what Hamilton said about Toto and Horner should get in a ring, who do you think would win? Oh, Toto Wolff. Oh, that's a clear. Come on, Black Hawk. Toto Wolff versus Christian Horner in a ring. I'm not condoning violence, by the way, Jonty, but Toto's got that in the bag before he even gets in there, surely.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. So the size of them, it's kind of like Rocky IV.
I've never watched a Rocky film in my life.
Get out.
I've also never watched a James Bond film in my life.
What? What's wrong with you? You got 2 hours of misogyny and casual various isms and what have you, just for the sake of being British. I mean, they are horrifically misogynistic, but they are funny in some case sometimes.
What? Why would I sit down for 2 hours with that when I can just go on Twitter for 20 minutes and get it all in one go?
It's not intended to be. It's just a different time. Twitter, they mean it.
That's true. That's true. DJ Red Raven, F1 word in that Jonty's corner. Aside from Bottas, which 2 to 3 drivers are currently most at risk of being replaced? I'm thinking Gio, new Ferrari young driver, Tsunoda, Marco v Marco. I think Tsunoda will probably get another year if he just does enough this year, if that makes sense. I think they'll be waiting on Gasly, whether he'll stick around. If he goes, then they'll keep Tsunoda for sure. Sorry to be an F1 driver and say for sure, of course. That's a tough one. I think Gio's another one. Depends on Raikkonen. If Raikkonen retires, I can see them sticking with Giovinazzi and bringing in a Schwartzman, but he needs to find some form and some luck in F2 and some consistency this year. Really disappointed with him so far. Love that kid. I think he's got a bright future, but a little bit not been a great start to F2 for him. So I think he hinges on Raikkonen, but I see where you're coming from. Mazepin's there for life. Stroll is there for life. We have to accept that. I love Lance Stroll, so it's fine. I don't mind. Maybe Ocon if Gasly becomes available. Could be. I mean, his contract's up, Gasly, so he is. But maybe Ocon, they might move him out. Or if, I don't know.
Nah.
I mean, it could even hinge on. The domino for this market is 100% Bottas. Because Bottas goes, Bottas leaves Mercedes, Russell moves up, you would assume, and then where does Bottas go? Who's going to move out? Will Alpine go, oh, Bottas and Alonso, that's a nice driver lineup, that'll work well. By Ocon, in comes Bottas, and then where does Ocon? And all of a sudden, it all starts to fall. I don't expect to see, aside from those that are already confirmed, including like McLaren, I don't see many teams towards the back end of the grid, your Williams, your Alfa Romeos, and then into the midfields like your Alfa Tyres and your Alpines. I can't see them confirming anything until they know what Mercedes are doing with Bottas.
Yeah. It's going to be like 2017 all over again. Just waiting and waiting and waiting for the Danny Rick news.
The hand grenade.
Or was it 18? Oh,
18?
I'm so useless with years. 2020 ruined everything.
Well, 2020 didn't happen, which is why we've got Euro 2020 and the 2020 Olympics in 2021. I'm going to ask chat this, and I'll regret it because I'm trying to take questions. Annette says, "Okay, chat, smooth or crunchy peanut butter? Anybody put it smooth? I'm blocking you. I'm not really. Don't worry. I'm not having it. It is chunky. It is chunky peanut butter all the way."
Sorry, I just saw one that amused me. Red Raven saying, if you didn't give them any rules, Horner could win because he's sure Horner would start biting first.
Dealer Play says, "Sean, have you seen Johnny English?" I have. I've not watched James Bond, but I've watched Johnny English, and somehow you don't have to watch James Bond to get references to stuff like that. James Bond is everywhere in this country because, you know, we're British, as you say, Jonty. Definitely. Bottas to rally time. Time is king, not on track battles. He's a good qualifier, like you say, Jonty. So Bottas back in rally after his little stint there for a winter a while back. I mean, why not? Yeah. Why not? But I think if Bottas leaves Merc or Merc get rid of him, I think Bottas will find a seat on the grid because he's struggling in his first 6 races. He's up against a very difficult driver. As you said, Jonty, you've got to be good to be able to take on Hamilton in qualifying. He's done a great job. They matched on pole positions a couple of years ago. I think he's too good to go. I think somebody will pick him up. But then some people think Hulkenberg was too good to go. So it happens, doesn't it? Drivers move on. It's just where does he go? He's not going to want to go back to Williams. I can't see that happening. I think Alpine, maybe, perhaps, could be an option. But then if Ocon carries on, they're not going to make that change. Maybe he could be the one to take Raikkonen's seat if Schwartzman's not ready at Alpha. Give Gio another year and then bring Schwartzman in. I don't know.
I think we're delving well into the realms of wild speculation here.
It's not the first time.
No, that's true.
We are rarely right. I'll take a couple more then, and then we're going to wrap it up. AK's there saying, what about Ilott? I know a lot of people want to see him in F1, don't they? I fear that ship has sailed. That sounds awful. I know he's still young, but generally when they don't make it up and then they end up as a reserve driver, they almost get forgotten, don't they? Which concerns me for him, so we'll see on that one. Smooth peanut butter is for cowards, says nice person. Well said. Imagine Bottas and Gasly in a Williams for 2022. It says Kagi or Kagi. They'll still need Latifi's money, won't they?
Yeah, they will.
Maybe not 22. Maybe, who knows in the future. A couple of people have been asking about flexi wings, but I can't find those comments there from earlier in the stream. I've not seen anything on protest, Jonty. I'd imagine given that Verstappen crashed out and Hamilton didn't score and Bottas didn't score and it was Perez taking the win, that it'll probably get let go now. Because we go into the new test now, which will be to appease people for France.
I think it may well depend on how desperate Mercedes are feeling about the Constructors' title. Well, about mainly the Constructors' title. Because that's the only thing they've got to gain from it. Red Bull not getting 25 points.
Good point,
It would be very... Well, we don't know because things like that usually happen on the Monday or the Tuesday. Remember, kids, none of these results are still official until all scrutineering is completed at about 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Could also depend what the FIA have seen on when they've gone through all their information with the dots on the rear wings. Oh, I love Formula One. All this technology, and it comes down to stickers on the rear wings. I love it. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Definitely keep an eye on it. On that note, all being well, because you never know, things do go wrong. The F1 Word podcast starts on Tuesday. We're out Tuesday evening. We're recording it Tuesday morning. I will pop a post in the community section here on YouTube and on Twitter. If you reply with your questions about the race weekend, we will answer. I'll probably pick 3 or 4 and we'll answer as many of those as we can in sort of 40 minutes an hour. It's going to be like a debrief, but specifically around a few questions from the weekend. So if anything breaks between this stream ending and us recording that podcast, I will make sure it gets covered in there. I mean, I don't mean Bottas has a new flavour of porridge. I mean, something big breaks that will be covered in the podcast. So that's out on Tuesday. I keep saying it all being well. We're recording it Tuesday morning. I've then got to get it edited for Tuesday evening. So it all depends if I can get that done or not. But hopefully Tuesday evening that'll be out. So, for those that enjoy the longer form content, other shorter videos will be back later in the week, of course. But yeah, a couple more questions, like I say, and we will wrap it up for today. Do you think Aston Martin's car is more competitive now, says Jamie Stiller? It seems it, doesn't it, Jonty? They seem to have sort of turned a corner, whether it is track specific with it being sort of Monaco and here in Baku where they've been the strongest. Maybe it is track specific. Like you say, we might have to just wait until we get to somewhere like Paul Ricard or Silverstone. But do you think they've turned a corner? It feels like it.
Yeah, they've definitely done something to perk things up with that car. Maybe they've just found the balance. I mean, it's amazing how much just understanding the car they've got can make a difference. And if they finally found a way to make the setups, predictable, then the drivers can do all much, much better.
Simmer says, already 6 constructors on the podium this season. Is that... It will be, yeah. We've had McLaren, we've had Mercedes, we've had Red Bull, we've had Aston Martin, we've had AlphaTauri, we've had Ferrari. Wow. So 6 out of 10 after 6 races, Jonty, on the podium. It's last year levels of madness. I love that.
2012.5.
2012.5. I like that one. And one more then. I'm going to take one more. Super quick. I'm going to take a second to have a look. We'll answer that one from, oh my God, Platylobium. I'm just going to say your first name. Says, fastest lap question. Should whoever sets it get a point, no conditions?
No. No, because in that case, you've always got Williams or Haas or Alfa, just doing however many 3 or 4 stops in the last 10 to 15 laps, just to put fresh tires on and go for it again, and it would make it incredibly difficult to follow and would be very unsafe.
It would add an extra element to. I'm just thinking back to this will go down well. Formula E, the battle for the fastest lap towards the end to get the title. That sort of thing's entertaining for people.
Yeah, but it worked there because they're not coming in to change for fresh tires.
Yeah.
Formula One, they would do quali stints. You take someone like Williams or Haas, they're never getting into Q3. So they've got half a dozen brand new soft tyres sat doing nothing because they've probably gone with the hards in the race because it will get them longer and they might be able to take advantage of a safety car. So then last 20 laps, they're in, fresh set, do 3, in, fresh set, do 3 on the off chance that they're going to get it. The other direction for things like that, so they've all got something to work for, is going the NASCAR route with stages. But the only problem there is that they have cautions or equivalent safety cars at the end of each stage, which wouldn't work in F1.
I don't know what I'm trying to say. I quite like the idea of it just going to whoever gets it, whether it's top 10 or not. But like you say, it then does become a bit farcical, doesn't it? And then if they're pitting, Russell pits towards the end, puts the tyres on, goes fastest lap, sets it, and then Schumacher comes in, pits for softer tyres and does that again, then Russell's going to react. The problem then is you've got lapped cars falling further and further back, meaning they're then going to get in the way of the leaders, and it could get quite messy because if they go fastest lap, they're not going to listen to blue flags, are they? They're going to ignore them because they want that point. Because if they get a penalty, they're still going to get their fastest lap. Doesn't matter to them if they get a 5-second time penalty. It doesn't matter, does it? Because they'll still get their fastest lap. So I think it just caused too much chaos, and I think then expensive as well. Yeah. Like you say, if it's dangerous, a collision.
Unnecessary amounts of tyres being used when they're still trying to be greener and cut costs.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think it would be good, but at the same time,
it's not meant in a negative way, but I have the slightest feeling this question may have come from a Max Verstappen fan.
Are you a Max Verstappen fan? Let us know. Maybe. It could be. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They might even try it. I still think we're going to end up with points for pole position at some point, which I'm not. I'd rather that than giving it to anybody in the field who gets the fastest lap, because that's something to go for. But I was going to say to you, that was the other thing I was going to say to you, that we could be, just to kind of wrap things up a little bit here, we could be in a position, Jonty, going forward with this title being so close, these sprint qualifying sessions, they could decide this title. 3 points for a win. If this is won by a couple of points, wow, that's gonna go down well. I know it's a save for everybody.
Yeah, which is why I'm not entirely happy about the way they've gone around it. I mean, for a start, we should have a whole discussion about these, to be honest, because I could keep going for the next hour. Well, I don't like the idea that it could. Same with the double points.
I'll tell you what about we get together, organising stuff on stream again. We'll get together before the first one at Silverstone and we'll discuss it. And then we'll get together the Wednesday afterwards and debrief it and see if we were wrong. How's that?
All right.
Yeah. That'd be a laugh. Why not? We could talk for about 2 hours on it. And just super quickly, Platilomium says he's not a Max Verstappen fan. But he accepts that Verstappen would have got the point today, though. We're going to wrap it up there, Jonty, because it's been nearly 2 hours. Oh, it has been 2 hours. Jesus. Thank you so much. I'm
going
to wet myself. Thank you so much, mate. It's been great to catch up. And like I say, hopefully get you on before Silverstone, but we'll do some stuff before Silverstone. I mean, we like to waffle, so maybe we should just do a load of midweek streams anyway. But it's been awesome, mate, and hopefully Paul Ricard won't disappoint. It will, but let's hope it doesn't.
Yeah, let's hope they give us something, anything,
just an overtake.
Anything. Yeah, just throw out safety cars just for the hell of it. Gamble, roll a dice. That's the lap that the safety car goes out.
Do it, and sprinklers.
Yeah, and if there is other stuff, maybe, as I've said 1,000 times, we need to be getting on Twitch. Oh, and the Euros are on as well. Christ. Oh dear.
What, France? France weekend?
No, just this month.
Oh,
it's just going to confuse things.
It's going to be chaos. It's going to be utter chaos. But yeah, we do need to get on Twitch again. We'll sort something out. We will talk. We've got ideas. I know we've got way too many ideas, including that one about the radios yesterday, which is hilarious. But yes, thank you very much, Jonty. Before we start giving things away, we know how people like to nick ideas. And I will catch you, bitch, in a bit.
Yes, goodbye. Thank you. And thanks for listening, everyone. It's very, very happy to be back.
All right, mate. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you to Jonty. Thank you to you guys as well for tuning in. Like I say, I quite enjoyed just talking there and just sort of reacting to the race rather than worrying too much about the specifics of what happened. Like I say, we'll be back on Tuesday with the F1 Word podcast, which I think I'm just going to call the F1 Word podcast because it makes sense. So that'll be out on Tuesday evening, maybe later on Tuesday night, depending how long it takes me to record. That is going to be not in partnership with, but working with Motorsport Week. So I've got Stuart with me, aka Chamber, but I've also got Fergal Walsh from Motorsport Week joining me as well, and hopefully we'll get some others from over there on. So some new voices on the channel, always brilliant because it's great to get some new perspectives. So keep an eye out on the community tab. There'll be a post up there soon for you to put a question to, and keep an eye on Twitter as well if you follow me over there. Links in the description to social media and all that jazz. And then we'll pick 3 or 4 out and try and get through as many of those as we can in the space of 40 minutes to an hour. Don't forget to drop a like before you disappear. Did we make the 700? We did. 785. Well done, everyone. Gold stars. Please do drop a like and don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Lots to come over the next few weeks. Triple header as well after a week off before France. So, yes, looking forward to this F1 on a roll. And hopefully, just some more really close racing. We don't need chaos, just lots and lots of close racing. Fantastic. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.